So in the last video we added the ability to sign up, and all of our user data is being put in the window, and we can persist our session if we go to the auth file with the help of, as we saw before, auth initial props, which will handle either getting the session from the server or getting the session from the client. So we're putting our session in the client. However, we're still not seeing our auth navigation. We're not seeing the profile page link as well as our sign out button. We're just seeing sign in and sign up. Obviously, if we've already signed in, we shouldn't see the sign in link. So just like we did in our last project, in order to have our individual pages remember, so to speak, our session, to get our session, we need to use this auth initial props function with the get initial props method. So in order to see the auth navigation on the index page, we need to go to pages and then index, and then anywhere at the bottom. It could actually either be within the component or underneath, but it's more convenient to do it underneath. You can say index.getInitialProps and set it equal to auth initial props. And we need to make sure to import auth initial props from the lib folder and the auth file. And once we save, we might need to refresh. We should see that we have our auth navigation, our profile link, and our sign out button. And if we refresh, no matter how many times, it's still there. However, when we go to, say, the profile page, since we're not calling auth initial props on profile or any other page, we're not going to be displaying the proper navigation in the nav bar. So just thinking about this for a second, before we add auth initial props on all of the pages, we technically don't need to add it to the sign in or sign up pages. If a user happens to manually go to them, that's one thing, but if a user's signed in, we really only care about showing them the profile and sign out buttons, and it's not that important if sign in and sign up keep track of our session. So first we'll head to, after index, we'll go to profile, and we'll import auth initial props from the lib folder. Then at the bottom, say profile.getInitialProps equal to auth initial props. And if we take another look at our auth initial props function, the first argument we can pass to it is protected route. So we have to ask, is our profile page going to be a protected route? Well, yes, it's a page where we're going to be fetching user data, so if someone's unauthenticated, it's not going to work. So we want to kick them out of this page, and we can do so by setting auth initial props to true. And then after profile, we have edit profile, and we can do exactly the same thing. Import auth initial props. And edit profile. Will certainly be a protected route. Of course, if you're unauth, you shouldn't be editing anyone's profile, so we'll kick them out of this route too by saying auth initial props should have the first argument of true. So we'll save, and then in our app, we might need to refresh, but on the profile page, we should see our auth navigation. If we go back to home, it stays there, and if we manually go to edit profile, we see that it remains. Now let's just quickly implement sign out, and we can do that by going to our nav bar component, and on sign out, on the button, we're going to need an onClick, which is going to reference a new function which we'll call sign out user, and we need to create this function in our auth file once again. So export const sign out user. This will be async since we'll be making a get request, but we won't need to pass in anything. We'll say if type of window is not equal to undefined. We're going to remove the data from our window by setting the property connected to window user script variable to an empty object. Then we're going to say await axios.get, and the path to sign out is /API/auth/signout. Then we'll say router.push. We're going to push to the sign in page. Of course, we want to direct them away from any authenticated routes or protected routes, I should say. So we'll need to import router. We'll make sure we're importing that. And we'll save everything. And in navbar, we need to make sure that we import sign out user. And then when we click on sign out, we should be taken to the sign in page. Our user property should be an empty object. And if we try going to a protected route like profile, we'll immediately be kicked back to sign in.